welcome back. Not only is it important to talk to your somebody getting a mortgage or buying a house because, well, that plan can change as fast as rates do. But when you're actually creating a financial plan, I hear it more and more. It's easy to create a plan. It's a lot harder to execute it. And that does fall on a potential client. Chuck McDonald and Scott Balsam join us with UBS, both wealth advisors. And, first of all, welcome, guys. How are you?
Good.
Great, thanks.
Good.
Appreciate it.
Well, we're happy to have you guys here. And, it's been fun talking with you before you actually came on the show because, we're kind of talking about what goes on. And, well, there might be a T-Mobile protest downstairs. So hopefully they won't get all the way up here.
We're locked down. We're safe.
We're safe. We're high up.
I sacrificed the car, I guess.
Yeah. Guys, I want to just hit on, we actually were talking about how in mortgage and real estate, they try to put together a plan. And sometimes it's not always, it's not up to the professional to actually execute it. It's up for them to present it. I thought we could talk a little bit about, that how, when you guys work with people, whether it's buying products or the bigger financial picture, how do you guys work with people, and what are they generally looking for when they seek out a financial advisor?
Well, typically what we've found is there's often some sort of a triggering event. People may have gone through a life change or something like that you had mentioned, maybe looking to buy a house, getting married, something like that. So, it's that type of triggering event. Or there also might be something where they heard about, this particular investment at a cocktail party or something like that. And so they're seeking out advice. For one of those two reasons, just kind of, either come to us, kind of look at that bigger financial picture, or, maybe it's just something they just want to bounce something off of us for something that they had heard.
So whether they're either at a cocktail party or they've gotten married, huh?
Exactly.
So, when people start this, it typically would start with like a question, right?
We get two kinds of people come into us. Those that come in looking for a long-term relationship, a consulting partnership, or those that come in and say, my brother-in-law said I ought to get one of these, and so I'm here to get it. I'm not sure what it is, but I ought to buy one of these. And, they hear about it in the media. They hear about it at the cocktail parties. CNBC does a lot of work telling people about how great it's going to be. And we don't quite think that's the best spot to get your best financial advice.
Mad Money?
Mad Money. He can yell like nobody's business. Most of these media events are for entertainment, like Mad Money. He yells at you. He's not really telling you to yell at you. He's just yelling for fun. Sometimes a drink with friends isn't the best way to get your financial advice.
I would say that's probably true. I think that's what got a lot of people in trouble originally in investing in real estate and whatnot. Oh, my neighbor does it and they do it, so woo! Let's have drinks and buy some real estate. So how do you think, if it's not necessarily going at the media, how do you think the process should work? Where should they be getting their information from?
Well, what we really recommend is for anybody who's actually looking to engage the services of that professional. Like you said, you're not a big fan of do-it-yourselfers, but for someone who's really into finding somebody to help them out, we really want that to be a team approach, a two-way street. Share some data with us, share some information, tell us what's important to you. And it's that type of information that's going to help us get to the bottom of really being able to generate an important and meaningful plan for you and be able to follow through that. What are your goals? What are your objectives? What's your investment experience? Maybe you've never bought a mutual fund or an individual stock in your entire life. We need to know that type of thing. And anybody that you work with we would expect that they would ask that question of a particular person.
Yeah, that would seem like that's a big piece of that. When we work with home buyers, it's that same kind of piece. Have you bought a home? Because the questions are different. The people are a little bit more afraid, maybe. They're less tolerant of or understanding of what's really going on. So when you work with people, what do you start discovering, or what do they start discovering about the process?
Well, we think that the biggest benefit of the process is to as much educate as it is to identify risks. We look for such things as concentrations of whether it's stock or business ownership. If you own a great business like Sandusky or something, you've got a concentrated risk. What are the risks to you and your family? We want to educate those people as to what those are. Sometimes failure to understand the consequences of some of your actions, unexpected choices. We want to educate people to how these things will impact a financial plan. What we want to do is make sure that people understand their risks. They can still enjoy life, but be able to be prepared to make a good decision about that.
Do those choices, I mean, it's consistent choices, isn't it, too? When you talk about living a good life, making the right choices, isn't it consistently making the right choices? Isn't it consistently maybe sticking to the plan and understanding that, you know, hey, if I do this, like you said, the consequences, I mean, that's got to be part of what you guys are working with.
Absolutely. Well, I think the biggest thing, too, is we understand that people are going to deviate from their plan. You know, for example, they might retire and they say, oh, I want to buy a boat. And it's like, well, how much are you going to spend on the boat? Well, I'm going to spend X on a boat. Well, then the next thing, 3 or 5 months later, it's 2X or 4X. And it happens. And I think
you can always get a bigger boat.
Well, I think the important thing to understand is that, you know, if you work with us to say, this is what we want to do, and you go out and you feel like you want to do something else maybe, well, then let us know and let us work with you on that. Don't try to be an adversary with us. Don't hide it from us, because we're going to find out. And we're going to sit there, we're going to talk to you at a review meeting, and you're going to say, oh, I bought a boat, a big one.
They're like TVs, right? It's like shopping for a flat screen TV. Mm-hmm. I could go a little bit bigger.
Right. So I think the biggest thing to understand is just, like I said, it's really that open communication, that two-way street. Set the expectations and say, you know, if these are the things that you want to do, great. We understand that during your retired lifetime, I mean, you could expect that if someone's retired lifespan is going to be about 25 to 30 years with the way that people are living these days, things are going to change. But just work with us on that. Let us know what's changing, and we'll help alter the plan, and we'll tell you what the consequences are going to be.
We also find that these days things change. Life happens. We keep saying that. And maybe your health changes. Maybe your mother's health changes, or your kids need some help. All these things are things we expect to see happen. We want to cooperate and coordinate with you, give you choices. There's times we want to take more risk or less risk on the table, depending on what your needs are. So the more we can be educated as to where you're going and what you're trying to accomplish, then the better we can put your financial tools in order so that they'll better meet your long-term needs.
And so when you start thinking about, I mean, the long-term needs, or maybe it is healthcare with your kids, as you say, life happens, what should clients really be concerned about? I mean, there's some pieces, I guess, where you guys know the full range, right? I mean, we talk about in the mortgage and real estate world, you know, there's some things we just understand how to handle. There's things that may come up that, right, that you've seen it before. There's a level of experience. It's got to be similar in what you guys do, and being able to essentially create this bigger picture than just save as much money as possible.
Exactly. It's a very large laundry list of things that we tend to work with. And anybody looking for an advisor should definitely make sure that they've got the knowledge and the skills to be able to talk about that. Scott mentioned a couple things. Healthcare, or long-term care and healthcare, is a real big concern of a lot of our clients. Like I said, 20 to 30 years in retirement. That's an awful lot for something to happen with their health. We also talk about estate planning for proper wealth transfer. We look at tax management ideas. We talk a lot about family dynamics. You might have some kids that are great with money, and you might have some kids that are just rotten with it, and so you want to be able to adjust and plan for that accordingly. Or maybe you're funding kids and grandkids. We talk about business succession planning. It's a real big deal if you've got closely held businesses. Clients, a lot of people that we work with have charitable inclinations, and so you want to figure out how to make sure that they're optimizing the amount of money that's going to the causes that are important to their family. We also talked about debt and liability management as well, because that's a big piece of the tool, as you know, and also insurance as a tool to mitigate those risks.
You know, and you talk about all these different things, and I think it's almost this element of counseling, right? Because there are so many different pieces. And I know that even I'm trying to do my own loan, which I've been doing loans for 10 years. I'm sure Ryan can tell you the same thing. You guys could probably say the same thing. When you get into your own money, it is very difficult to wrap your head around it, right? But when you have somebody there, there's this element of counseling that kind of goes on, where whether it's a sounding board or somebody who can help you understand what your goals are and what it truly takes to get there. And that's kind of the role you're in, is a counseling and helpful type of role, right?
One of the things that happens is people get to a level that they need another human being's confidence that they're making a good decision. And sometimes it's guidance, and sometimes it's support, and sometimes it's, are you sure you want to do that? We like to tell the story about being the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other. We're trying to show you all the choices. We want you to know what your choices are. We want you to make an informed decision that based upon your own needs. but you have to understand the consequences of those choices, and that's what we want to focus on.
Well, you guys, we have to go to break. We're here with Chuck McDonald and Scott Balsam. Guys, just hitting on that again, understanding, I guess people do have choices. You get to choose where you want to spend your money. You get to choose if you want to save it. You choose if you want to do insurance or put your kids through college. Is that the toughest thing to help people really realize is they do have more control than they think? Or is it, where do you see that?
It's a good question. I think it's a challenging thing, part of the job, but it's also pretty rewarding in the fact, because when you can help somebody negotiate the sale of their business, or you can help them, you can show them a plan that basically says, you know what, here's everything you laid out for us, and here's how you get there. There's a tremendous amount of satisfaction in a client's mind that comes to that.
Well, I would imagine it's, it can be a little painful. It's kind of like getting a mortgage and buying a house. It isn't always the most fun process, but when you get there, it's certainly well worth it. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. We have to go to break. Again, that's Chuck McDonald and Scott Balsam. When we come back, we're going to go back on the real estate train and discuss a little bit more about what's going on with housing inventory. It's the hottest topic we've seen, and the market is as hot as the topic. We'll be back right after this break. You're listening to Brashenomics.